Hi, I'm here live again, and today I want to discuss the part of the microbiome that relates to our damage, the damaging factors that we're putting all the time to the microbiome. I've been recently hearing a lot of podcasts and webinars about multiple new pollutants and chemicals that are being added to the food chain and the farming industry, and it's just massive and overwhelming. But I would like to start covering the basics today, because I don't want for you to get upset. I know it's a difficult world we're living in. There's a lot of manipulation. There's a lot of things that are being used right now. They've never been proven safe for the microbiome. So definitely we have a huge question mark in multiple areas, multiple chemicals and additives that are being used standardly in our food. And on the other hand, we have pretty good information regarding some other things that are being used that we know they're not good for you. We know they're not good for the microbiome at all. We know that they interrupt some fundamental metabolic pathways that, if they are not happening, we don't get nothing done, and our bacteria and our microbiome as a whole thing start dying and gets compromised in multiple levels. But we're going to get more specifically into that in a minute. We have a normal pathway where we get our microbes from the moment we are born, and actually even before. We have evidence that the placenta actually has some restricted amount of microbes that are being passed, and I think that's our first exposure, our first interaction with this beautiful community of microbial entities that are going to be making our grown-up microbiome at the end. But we have exposure there, and then of course by the birth canal, orally, we get a lot of microbes from the vaginal tract from our mother. And that's one of the main things that we want to highlight, because right now it's pretty much optional, the delivery. We can opt for vaginal delivery, we can opt for C-section, and it's pretty much out of convenience. I understand there's some cases that there's not option, and C-section should be mandatory because can compromise the life of the newborn, but in multiple other scenarios, it's just out of convenience. And then we're bypassing a fundamental inoculation moment. That's one of the most important moments in your life that you're gonna get is gonna be your starting point for building up your microbiome and all the foundations from that. And if you bypass that, there's no way back. That's it. And then the other incredibly important area for the microbiome is the breastfeeding. Breastfeeding, it will be like a full hour more maybe conversation about why it's so important, but you get things that are made by your mother that are unique to you. They're related to your individual needs. They change in a daily basis, on a weekly basis, so you get different type of nutrients and immunoglobulins and information regarding what you need at that time of your life, and that creates an adaptation. You're building your resilience through the breast milk of your mother, and it's a beautiful process. And you get more than 200 oligosaccharides, which are the prebiotics we can buy in a supplement, or we can get in our foods. Those fundamental molecules, that fundamental nutrients that we should get for our babies, they're coming for free in the breast milk and in multiple types that are way more expanded and way more advanced than just whatever you can get in any formula or any other type of synthetic artificial supplement for or food type for a baby. So there you have such an amazing nutrient that you're not going to replace anywhere else, and plus all the other benefits. But that's a big conversation about that, and I don't want to expand this too much for now, and we'll talk maybe more about that in a different conversation. Then if you bypass that by formula because it's more convenient for you, because it's from your schedule for multiple factors. Of course, I'm talking about things that are an option. I understand there's cases that you just can't bypass that. That's your only option, and I completely get it. But when you have the option, if you don't give that piece of inoculation with all the microbes, all the things that you require for sustaining life at that moment, and for an extra X amount of time that should be not less than 6 months, and hopefully, ideally, will be not less than a year, you're going to bypass some other incredibly important moment of inoculation and a piece of for a fundamental piece for building your microbiome. So that's number 2. On the side, we need sometimes to get some therapies, and we know now, and this is without any judgment, that there's no requirement for anything in the pharmaceutical or in the food industry right now to be tested safe for the microbiome. So again, you might be using something with your best intentions of trying to achieve some health benefits for your newborn, for your baby, but you don't know what you're going to be making regarding your human microbiome. And of course, it's obvious that antibiotics, they're going to damage your microbiome to a certain extent. Between 0 and 3 years old, we know that there's a chance that you go back to square one after a treatment with antibiotics. So it might be the possibility you might still get back whatever you had before the treatment with antibiotics, but we definitely know that after 3 years old, you're not going back to the same place. Whenever you get an antibiotic after 3 years old, you are going to damage that microbiome and will never get back to square one. You will have a different composition, different type of diversity, and that will stay with you permanently. So there's no self-regulation or self-balance in terms of keeping doing the same thing that you were doing before, getting antibiotic treatment, and whatever is going to be changing is going to remain. And that's complicated because it can be aggravated with other factors and has a cumulative effect. And at the end, you can end up with a totally different microbiome that will be less functional than the microbiome you already had. And that's something that you have to consider always when you have to, and only when you have to do an antibiotic treatment, that you need to do something on the side and take extra care of your microbiome status in order to get it better and not get all these side effects and negative side effects that you will get from the antibiotic treatment. Now, the other thing that we're exposed to, and this is a big conversation right now, I know there has been some laws passed for forbidding the usage of some of these chemicals in New York State right now. Hopefully the rest of the states are following the same modality. I think that's a great achievement for public health is pesticides and herbicides. And we know that the main one right now is Roundup, which is the main ingredient from Roundup is actually glyphosate. And glyphosate is fundamentally an antibiotic. It's a broad spectrum antibiotic, and it will create a damage to the microbiome. Actually, it's an excellent antibiotic because blocks the ability for your microbes to synthesize proteins altering a pathway that is called Icam pathway. And when you don't have the Icam pathway in the bacterial world, your bacteria can't grow anymore, they can't survive. We don't have a Icam pathway, and that's the reason why glyphosate was approved to be used in humans, because it was safe for human cells, because it was not interacting with any pathway. This conversation about that anyway, but until that point there was no alteration to any pathway that we knew in our human cells by the use of that. But for the human microbiome, it's altering everything that you know regarding the existence and the survival of these microbes. So again, we are using that chemical in the majority of the non-organic farming. And now it's added to multiple other pesticides and chemicals we put on the site. So the load of chemicals we're exposed to by non-organic farming, directly or indirectly, is pretty considerable. And we can avoid some of that just by choosing organic. And I think that's the option. That we should be opting for organic produce anyway. But there's something that we can avoid. Glyphosate is water soluble, so it's pretty much in everything that is containing water, and the planet is 70% made out of water. So how are you gonna bypass that? That you're getting that anyway. It's a reality right now, and you probably breathe in that. There are some studies saying that 75% of the humidity in the air is now contaminated with glyphosate, and so you're literally breathing on antibiotic. So that's what we have right now. Food choices. There's another fundamental problem we have for the microbiome, is that we're driven by a protein calorie intake society. We are counting proteins a lot, we're counting fats, we're counting calories, but nobody is counting fiber. From all your spectrum of microbes, that you fixed amount that you have in your gut, 70% of them, talking like the vast majority of them, are fed by fiber. They rely and need fiber. And usually the typical American diet contains not more than 15 grams of fiber, which we know compared to the ancestral diets and from indigenous populations, they have more than 200 grams of fiber daily. So now we're having critically less amount of fiber that we should get for sustaining the life of our microbes, and we're literally starving them to death. If they're not getting food, they're not going to be able to survive, and we're actually empowering and overfeeding some other bacteria that were not supposed to be fed so much, and we're creating all these nutritional imbalances that ultimately they will create a microbial imbalance, and then you will have what we call dysbiosis, or a dysfunctional imbalance of your microbiome. So this is something that we're doing standardly right now in our trending diets, and I think is something we should be corrected, something that should be adjusted, and we should start counting fiber in our diet. That's fundamental. And again, that's something we're gonna talk more when we talk about nutritional approaches for a healthy microbiome. That's something that's a really cool topic, and can't wait for getting there. But for now, I want you to become aware of that we live in a world when decision making for our microbiome is crucial, and sadly we don't get the best information to make this happen, and we are disrupting our ecology by the choices we're making, by our foods, our medical treatments, or lifestyle, and we are literally killing our core microbiome, and that is much needed in a daily basis. We know one of the inoculation pathways we get for sustaining a healthy microbiome comes not only with foods, which no, they don't have really that much of microbial components, because everything is triple washed or sterilized. So you don't have those microbes that were naturally occurring in the soil anymore. So that's missing. And now also we are not really moving around too much, meaning that we're not really going out, we're not really we don't have a very active life in terms of how much environmental exposure we get. I mean, if you don't have environmental exposure, you're not going to be using your second main pathway for normal inoculation of your microbiome, which is the airway. When you breathe microbes. There's, we spoke about this, we have 10 elevated to 31 viruses in the air. We have billions of bacteria around us, and I don't even know exactly the number of how many fungi and other microbial entities we have in the air we're breathing. But we know there's a massive amount that we are exchanging by breathing that is allowing us to inoculate the microbial environment and sustaining a passage of information directly from the environment to our gut. So that's crucial. But if you are just moving from point A to point B, let's say your house to work and back and forth for the entire week, and you're not really going out and you're not exposing yourself to more microbial diversity, your microbiome diversity is going to be compromised. And we know diversity regarding the microbiome is heavily related to functionality. So when we see that our digestive system and any other part of our body, the immune system, and all the things we rely on to be healthy are not functioning properly, might be because you have a microbiome imbalance, and maybe because you're losing diversity, and maybe you're not sustaining diversity because you're not really doing anything to inoculate in a daily basis that diversity. We need to find ways to sustain diversity in a daily basis. And the main passage was food, which is sterile right now, so we don't have anything there. And the second one was the environment. But if you're going to be stuck in a box in an office the whole day, breathing AC air with maybe a filter, maybe not, but whatever it is, it's not really fresh, clean air. You're not going to get that part. So as much as you can, it's very recommendable to go out, expose yourself, and grab this piece of microbial world that we have in the environment, because that's going to sustain your diversity. That's going to also allow challenging your immune system. And that's another conversation we'll have also in the future about how we challenge your immune system to get trained and then get it more functional. Definitely comes from the bacteria. Do we know that? We know that we need the bacterial world, we need the microbiome, we need the viruses, we need the bacteria, we need all the microbes in the environment to provide information and challenge your immune system in order for them to learn and to process things accordingly and react properly. So that's something we need. So all the natural inoculation pathways, food preferences, fiber intake, lifestyle, natural environmental exposure. And the other part that is very important is also in the same environmental exposure, how much you're connecting with your environment. You need to go out and interact with your environment. That will give you a even better experience. You don't not only just keeping something in the going out and breathing, just interact with the environment. That's going to give you such amazing experience. It's going to boost whatever you're getting from that. And go outside as much as you can. Don't go jump right away into the television. Just go outside for a walk after you arrive home. If you're at work for 8, 11 hours and you are not really moving around, you don't have any type of air, any window, that definitely will have some negative impacts. But just as much as you can, if you finish your work, jump outside and stay there as much as you can. That's such a healthy recommendation that will bring so much benefits for your microbiome. Eat, cook, interact with your food, choose fiber. Put a lot of fiber there from multiple sources. Don't count proteins. Don't count calories. You don't need that. You have enough proteins. I'm telling you, this is a world that is driven by proteins. We need fiber. Start counting your fiber. Think every day how much fiber I'm putting in my plate. count it if it's needed in order to get an approach and see how much you need to eat in order to make your fiber intake optimal. I'm shooting for 30 grams to 50 grams at least daily. Some people, they need to build that number up gradually, but I think that 50 grams is a good number for sustaining an amount of fiber that is needed for your microbiome to be able to survive and actually thrive. That's the idea. Last but not least, sleep. Sleep deprivation is huge right now. People are not sleeping, they're not resting, there's not been sleeping enough hours, they're overexposed to electromagnetic fields from any kind, they're not putting their phones on off mode or airplane mode, they have TVs and routers close to their bedrooms, everything wireless, and besides that, you go to bed late at night and stress and thinking and overthinking. I know that. We all be in that way for in one moment of our lives, and I know it's hard, but sleep is fundamental for the health of the microbiome and your health, of course, as well. But we need to. This microbiome has a circadian rhythm, and if we don't respect that, we're definitely going to disrupt the healthy behavior of your microbiome. So we need to sleep, and our microbes need to sleep, or they need to change the patterns of behavior, and they do things differently. So yeah, definitely something that we can't keep. We need to keep a track of that, and if we're not getting enough sleep, that's it. We're going to disrupt the circadian rhythm of the microbiome, and pretty much, and it's not going to look good. There's many other things that can disrupt the microbiome. The treatments for different diseases, and we spoke about that. There's nothing been tested safe for the microbiome in the chemical world, but we definitely need to start taking at least. This is the basic checklist. This is what you need to check just in a daily basis. Your food intake, your life exposure to the daily exposure to different environments, breathing properly, food preferences, avoiding chemicals in foods, organic food. It must be your choice, and you will be covering a lot of bases. Water is also another big piece, and I will actually suggest not get tap water. Don't drink tap water, avoid it. There's many reasons why. So much stuff there that we don't know. It's not about putting chlorine, and that will solve anything. Actually, that'll make it worse for the microbiome, but definitely tap water is not the way to go. Usually, if we're choosing bottled water, glass, and spring water from good sources. I know it can be a little bit more expensive, but totally worth it. That's an investment. That's definitely an investment. If you have a purifier, well, that can be an option too. But definitely we need good clean water and good hydration. We're not drinking enough water. I know the standard says that you could be half of your body weight in ounces of water, and I think that that's a good starting point. We don't want to wash ourselves out, but definitely we need to put water enough to sustain our hydration. We're made out of water mainly. So that's a few recommendations I can give you right now from risk factors and avoiding damaging elements that you can be exposed to on a daily basis that could be damaging to the microbiome. And we're going to expand this because this is part of the mainstream line of the conversation regarding the microbiome. So these topics will be coming into the conversation over and over. But for now, this is what I want to share with you, and we'll be talking soon. I will approach the next conversation. We're going to be talking about pre, symbiotics, postbiotic, all that spectrum of supplements we have available right now. I'm trying to untangle a little bit the complications and the names and species and types, and let's see if we can give you some information that can be useful for you for your decision making later. Okay, I will talk to you then. Bye bye.